Hello and welcome back to another edition of Viper Bites as we continue our tour of all 32 NFL franchises to take a look at their top 5 fantasy assets. And as always, we are presented by the Fantasy Points Media Group. Let's start off by talking about Terry McLaurin here, who the experts' consensus rankings has him as the wide receiver 16 for Dynasty. Back in 2019, McLaurin was 81 yards shy of 1,000. If he had reached 1,000 yards as a rookie, then McLaurin would be entering the 2022 season not only with a nice new contract, but with 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons to start his career. McLaurin is one of just 35 players to record 3,000 yards receiving through their first 3 seasons. It also helps when you're one of 9 receivers to see a 23% target share in back-to-back years. Case Keenum, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Tyler Heineke, and even Garrett Gilbert are all quarterbacks that have thrown passes to McLaurin here over the last 3 seasons. So perhaps Carson Wentz, coming off a 3,500-yard season through 27 touchdowns, may be the consistency that McLaurin's game has been looking for to take that bigger boom bust potential from week to week that we've seen earlier in his career and kind of level that out moving forward. Now, running back Antonio Gibson. He's coming off the board as the consensus ranked 14th running back. Will Ron Rivera revert back to his Carolina Panthers days and use Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson the same way in which he used Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams? It's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, the last time 2 running backs from the same team each recorded 1,000 yards on the ground was that combination of Stewart and Williams back in 2009. In 2 seasons in Washington, you cannot argue what Antonio Gibson has been able to do. He has posted back-to-back seasons with over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. He's put up over 21 touchdowns in those 2 years. Gibson comes into 2022 in perhaps the best shape of his life. He's hired himself a personal chef, for crying out loud. And Carson Wentz is obviously the best quarterback in which he's already played with or shared the field with in the NFL. Probably in college too. I mean, he was in Memphis, and Memphis isn't exactly known for is a hotbed for college quarterbacks. Now, with the additions made on this offense and the return of Curtis Samuel, this Washington offense, they could be better than expected, which means Antonio Gibson may not be the focal point for defenses. Now, speaking of some of those new additions here, how about the rookie Johann Dawson here? Dawson's hands were regarded as the best in this year's draft class. And his college film showed a player that once the ball is in his hands, he can do some pretty special things. Each season at Penn State, Dawson improved statistically in receptions, targets, target share, touchdowns, everything. He just improved all the way through. Dawson looks to be the perfect complement to McLaurin, a set of sure hands that can see 100 targets every single season. It's not unreasonable after seeing Dawson catch 91 passes for the Nittany Lions last season while producing a 43% college dominator. Dawson averaged 2.52 yards per route run with Sean Clifford throwing him the ball, so you know he can get the job done with poor quarterback play at hand. If Deontay Johnson could catch, he'd be Johann Dawson, just for reference. Now, another wide receiver to talk about here is Curtis Samuel. Sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone, and if you don't have it, then you can't miss it. Washington Commanders certainly did not miss Curtis Samuel a season ago because they never had him in their lineup. Maybe it's wishful thinking here, but I really want to see promise finally meet production when it comes to Curtis Samuel. Washington gave Curtis Samuel $35 million just to watch him play in 5 games due to injury and pick up just 10 touches. Those injuries, they just didn't seem to stop. It was one after another after another. He just couldn't get right. Now, entering 2022, Samuel should be healthy, knock on wood, and looking to contribute once again. If you were looking for a buy low type candidate, Samuel is a player you should be targeting right now. Samuel is coming off a lost season, right? There's no expectations. He's playing behind Terry McLaurin. He's playing behind Dawson, but yet he's reuniting with a former offensive mind that once had him doing poor man's version of what Deebo Samuel is doing today. He's basically Deebo before Deebo was. In 2019 with the Carolina Panthers, Samuel would catch 54 passes on 105 targets from Kyle Allen, which would turn into 627 yards, while he added 130 yards on the ground on 19 carries. The last time Samuel was healthy, he caught 77 of 97 passes and led all receivers with a 91% catch rate. And finally, for this Washington Commanders, we are going to talk IDP. You want to talk about promise? You want to talk about living up to expectations? How about we talk about Chase Young? He still carries that defensive end 3 in Dynasty. He's still going off as the 13th IDPer in many drafts. The Commanders' front 4 is loaded. Young, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat. And these are all viable options in IDP leagues that have both defensive end and defensive tackle designations. You can make a case for Cole Holcomb here, who finished with 142 tackles, 83 solo last season. When deciding between Young and Holcomb, you need to understand your league scoring system and where exactly that drop-off in value comes at each position. You also need more than 1.5 sacks from Young for this to be a viable asset for your fantasy rosters. Now, Chase Young, he's still just 23 years of age, and I'm banking on those flashes we saw during his rookie season to be rekindled this year and for years to come after he finished with 32 tackles and 7.5 sacks in just his first season. Maybe you need a bounce back right now, and I recommend heading to fantasypoints.com to get it. You want to save some money while you're at it? Use promo code VIPERS22 and get 10% off that subscription today. With that all being said, if you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever that podcasting platform may be, take a second and rate and review us. And if you're watching us here on the Vipers Network, take a second, hit that like button, give us a good old-fashioned thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and make sure your notifications are turned on because we got plenty more content coming at you daily, right up until kickoff. And trust me, we've got plenty more coming after kickoff you do not want to miss. We'll see you later.